hold onto your seats, because this episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver is absolutely packed with jaw-dropping moments, darkly hilarious twists, and a lightning, sharp look at one of America's strangest and most controversial laws. If you thought you understood the criminal justice system or New York City politics, just wait till you see what comes flying in tonight. We've got beauty pageant death metal, a government shutdown, lawsuits, bribes, and chip bags, and one outrageously weird mayor. Plus, the main story. It's practically custom, made to blow up everything you thought you knew about murder laws in America. Let's break it all down and explain why people are talking non-stop about this episode. The show jumps out of the gate with classic John Oliver energy. A quick fire rundown of the week's biggest and most bizarre headlines. The government shutdown drags on to historic lengths. FIFA somehow wants to launch a peace prize, accue John's skepticism, and at the Miss World child pageant, one contestant stuns the crowd by rocking out with her death metal band. The absurdity is real, and John revels in it, playfully pointing out that if she'd lost to a baton twirler, the world truly makes no sense. And, just for fun, he jokingly claims to have a sexy R&B album in his back pocket. It's all done to set up the unpredictable tone that's become the show's signature. He then pivots to the results of Election Day. The win for Zohran Mamdani as New York's mayor is highlighted as both a moment of triumph and controversy, with John defending Mamdani's fiery victory speech against critics who called it too sharp, given that Mamdani just came off one of the most Islamophobic campaigns in recent memory. John argues that even his restrained burn towards rival Andrew Cuomo is an act of superhuman grace. All this local drama is just a warm-up, as John promises more on the wild mayoral race later in the episode. But the main event of tonight isn't local politics. It's a deep dive into felony murder. And in classic Oliver style, he introduces it with comedic confusion. How can something sound so obvious but be so wrong? Using a circus-like local news segment, John helps viewers understand that felony murder means anyone involved in a dangerous crime, whether or not they physically harmed anyone, can be charged with murder if someone dies during that crime. The examples quickly get alarming. You could lend your roommate car keys and, totally unaware, end up with a life sentence for a murder committed during a burglary you weren't even present for. John unspools a steady series of cases that underline just how bonkers and dangerous this law is. There's Ryan Hall, who did nothing more than loan his keys and ended up sentenced to life in prison, his involvement limited to, literally, sleeping through the crime. There's the infamous Elkhart 4. In Indiana, 8 teens break into a house for a burglary. The startled homeowner fires and kills one of them, and somehow the survivors get charged for the murder of their own friend. There's Lakeith Smith, a 15-year-old in Alabama who refused a plea deal for a killing committed by police during a botched burglary. He ends up with 65 years in prison, none of which makes any sense to his family. There's Almir Nance, 16 years old, sentenced to 51 years for an armed robbery gone wrong, all because someone else pulled the trigger. The episode doesn't just give the facts. It dives into the emotional impact. John features powerful interviews with victims of the law, like Kevin Reese, who took a plea for second-degree murder simply because he was present at a robbery where someone else killed a person. The psychological trauma of living with a big red M for murder on his paperwork, knowing he isn't a murderer, echoes through the show. One juror from the Nance case admits she followed instructions only to find out this young man's life was ruined by a law she never realized was so unjust. Oliver spikes up the pace by spelling out that felony murder isn't just a relic. It's still shockingly widespread, especially in America, even though England and other common law countries have abandoned it. And it's not just unfair. It's a quiet engine of mass incarceration that few people know about. Some states even allow death sentences for people convicted under felony murder, leading to executions for people who never killed anyone. But there's more. The law is applied most viciously to non-white people and teenagers. John lays out the damning statistics. In New York, Hispanic and black accomplices are dozens of times more likely to be charged than whites. In Wisconsin and St. Louis, the numbers are jaw-dropping. Many people serving life are under 25, showing just how the law capitalizes on impulsive, adolescent behavior in groups. Then there's the so-called rationale for felony murder. Supporters say it's a deterrent, but multiple studies show that's just not true. Most people haven't even heard of the law. How could it possibly deter them? The sheriff who investigated Nance's case argues that at least those sentenced haven't committed more crimes since being locked up. But John points out that's not much of an argument for justice. Locking everyone up forever isn't a valid policy, no matter how wild the logic. Throughout all of this, John doesn't lose sight of the humor. Whether it's riffing on Minnesota's bizarre laws against greasy pig contests or lampooning the panicked politicians who parade out empty slogans. He keeps the energy lively so viewers aren't crushed by the grimness. So what's the ending takeaway? John makes it clear and urgent: felony murder has no place in modern law, and it needs to go. Other countries abolished it long ago, and some American states are finally starting to reform their statutes. Minnesota and California have made changes retroactive, allowing for resentencing and some measure of justice. The Elkhart 4 and Ryan Hall finally saw their convictions overturned after massive media attention, but Lakeith Smith and Almir Nance are still behind bars. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Felony murder only serves to punish people for crimes they didn't intend or actually commit. After this heavy main story, the episode switches gears back to New York politics for a lightning speed roast of outgoing Mayor Eric Adams, a man so strange, so scandal-prone, and so addicted to public pandering that it's almost surreal. John pulls out highlight after highlight: Adams's baffling survey answers, his crypto paychecks, ghost stories, fish eating vegan claims, flag-raising ceremonies, and a parade of resignations and FBI raids that would make any TV drama jealous. There's bribery with cash in chip bags, girlfriend scandals, and an endless stream of contradictions including the fact that Adams claimed to be Dominican despite being Brooklyn-born. John's parting shot at Adams is both a farewell and a summary of everything weird about New York, culminating with Adams's advice for the city D: don't fuck it up. As the curtain falls, Oliver reminds viewers just how wild both the criminal justice system and municipal politics can get, equal parts ridiculous and infuriating, but never boring. So to sum up, this episode tore apart America's felony murder law, unmasking its cruel consequences, explosive racial bias, and failure as a deterrent, all with John Oliver's classic mix of outrage, empathy, and razor-sharp wit. It also tied up the insanity surrounding New York's mayoral race, giving viewers a send-off to the city's most unusual mayor. If you missed it, you missed a wild ride. That's my breakdown of last week, tonight, Season 12, Episode 29. If you found this recap helpful, or if you have thoughts about felony murder laws, weird politicians, or death metal beauty pageants, drop them in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed our deep dive, share with friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more recaps and ending explanations. See you next time.